Hi, everybody. Hope you're having an okay day. I'm here from California. It's a little bit cooler today. I have a sweater on, and here with my buddy Ali. He's helping me. And over my shoulder here, I have the interment flag of my father, John C. Seiler Sr., captain of the U.S. Army, World War II, 1941 to 1946. And today's his birthday. Would have been 108 years old. There's an obituary. I'll put a link to it on my. I put this up on YouTube. So we have some stories to cover today. And first one here is the horrible shooting in Sydney, Australia, on the beach. The Jewish festival, Jewish festival there for Hanukkah, and just horrible how it was. And I'm not an expert in exactly what happened, but I do have something here. It's one of the things that gun experts like John Lott say is these things end when somebody with a gun shows up and starts shooting the killers. It could be a policeman, could be a army person, Navy person, or a Marine or somebody like that, or it could be a civilian with guns. Well, um, in Australia in the late 1990s, they banned all their guns. They destroyed them. And I have this video here. Charlton Heston, if you remember him, a great actor, he was the head of the National Rifle Association toward the end of his life before he got Alzheimer's. And I met with him once. He came and met with us at the Orange County Register just out of the blue. He said he liked our our writing, our libertarian attitude, and he came and I got a autograph for him for my mother, who was a big fan of his, and she loved movies in Hollywood. So that was a great thrill. But he always played this thing. That's funny. I'll put a link to it, but he played that because in Australia they destroyed everybody's guns. They seized all the guns, the whole country. And we have the impression the Aussies are really tough, and maybe they are. Maybe they used to be. Crocodile Dundee with his knife, and they were incredible fighters of World War II and World War One. I mean, everybody was. I mean, they were just shocking how good they were. Just tough, great soldiers. And now this, and if when these incidents occur even in America, sometimes nobody has a gun in the group that's being killed. So maybe that would not have helped anything in Australia. We can't possibly know. But we do know that sometimes these things are stopped with somebody with a gun. Some citizen comes out there and has a gun and blasts the killers. Uh, so that's all I have to say about that unfortunate and horrible thing. And there's a group called Jews for the Preservation of Fire Firearms Ownership. Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, and they're a really good group because they point out all the gun bans the Nazis imposed in the 1930s. I believe one was in 1938. They totally banned Jewish ownership of guns, and then other people had their guns banned too. And you know how that turned out. It's so it's the idea is if you're armed, then it's less likely you could be attacked by this or even by the government. That's why we have our Second Amendment. And in California here, we have a governor here, Gavin Newsom. He's signed into law. Let me put Ali. He wants to go back in. Ali he gets jealous when I talk on the phone. Anyway, Governor Gavin Newsom here, he signed like 20 gun control laws. And some of them have been turned over by the U.S. Supreme Court. But then what they do is they pass another one. The Democratic legislature, a bunch of tyrants, just like him, And the law is a little bit different, so it takes another 5 years, 10 years to go through the courts. And in the meantime, they're imposing it on us out here in California. The gun permits are done by county, and Orange County is very good. We have a good sheriff here, um, and other counties do too. Like rural counties generally do, but like LA County, forget it. A bunch of liberal nuts, Hollywood screwballs. Same thing up in San Francisco. So it's important because if this guy Newsom becomes president, odds are he's going to. If he does, then then it would be curtains for our gun rights. He didn't do it immediately with some executive order, which he likes doing, just like Trump. Only if he gets into office, that's another problem with Trump. All these executive orders that are illegal, like killing these people in the boats off Venezuela. President Newsom is going to say, "Well, Trump did all this." Excuse me. So um, that's the problem with that. And my father, by the way, he was a tool and die maker before World War II. He got a certificate from Henry Ford Trade School, which was the best trade school in the world at the time. It was closed in 1953. But he got into ordnance, ORDNANCE, fixing guns and planes and tanks and all that kind of stuff. He just was a great with machines, and he knew all about guns. When he came back, he taught my brother and me all about guns and how to especially practice gun safety. I'm sure if you had a father or some instructor, he would always say, if you point a gun at someone, it's only to kill that person. Otherwise, don't point it down. Make sure, because even if you think that thing is, that there's no round in the chamber, maybe there is. People have been killed by accident, like Terry Kath, the great guitarist for the group Chicago. Jimi Hendrix said he was the best guitarist in rock and roll. Anyway, he was cleaning his gun and bam, he was dead. So let's go on to some other stories here. There's a lot going on. U.S. casualties make it harder to unify Syria. This is New York Times. I'm doing Behind the News with John Seiler. Remember to like and subscribe. And check out my Substack. A lot of good stuff there today. Some stories I highlighted today. And I mean, why is this our business, unifying Syria? We split Syria apart. It was our job. It was what the CIA did. It was what the government did. Right now, Syria, there's a little bit of Syria in the middle, controlled by this terrorist guy, uh, Zalhari, who's also called by name of Al-Jilani. He's met with Trump in the White House. Trump, hey, you're great, even though the guy is a terrorist, killed Americans. So in Syria now, in the north, it's Turkey runs the area. In the west, it's Russia. They kept these two bases, a naval base and a military and an air force base, and they're protecting the Alawite minority of Islam, of Sunni Islam, and because that's what the guy Assad was, the dictator who they were backing. And in the south, Israel has grabbed a bunch of territory, and then in the east, the United States has the territory. That's where our troops are with the oil and the wheat. So we have all that. And then in the middle is this guy Jelani. He's getting our money now. Of course, everybody gets our money except us, except to pave our roads, to fix our schools, or maybe you need a roof on your house or something. Sorry, the tax money is needed to give to this terrorist. So let's move on to Ukraine. New York Times again. Zelensky offers to compromise to make peace, and he's saying, okay, we don't need to join NATO. That's what we needed all along, but we want. Where's the other story? We want security guarantees. Well, security guarantees would be the same as joining NATO. Uh, Here we go. This is from the Financial Times, Behind the News. Kiev offers to drop NATO membership if U.S. and Europe ensure security. Well, I came up with something. I think somebody came up with this idea a few years ago. Anyway, this is my version of it. But supposing Mexico started saying, Hey, New Mexico has our name in it. It used to be Old Mexico. We owned that. Texas, Tejas. Remember the Alamo? Remember the Alamo? We won that one. Texas belongs to us. California. We have Baja California, and California used to be ours, all of it. So I mean, all the names in California are ours. Um, Santa Ana, right next to where I live, Los Angeles, and you go all the way up to San Francisco. And Cupertino is actually the full name really is Saint Joseph Cupertino, who was a great saint in the Catholic Church. He levitated, so I guess that's appropriate for AI nowadays. Anyway, um, so what if Mexico said, "Hey, we want it back. You guys stole it from us," and it's nowadays there's a lot of Spanish-speaking people there, just like uh, just like there's Ukrainian people in the areas Russia's taking. So we want it back, and we're going to get some missiles and some tanks and some drones and some S-57s from Russia, and we'll be peaceful. We're going to wait till you give it back to us, but we're going to put these weapons there. Well, what do you think if they started doing that? How would it turn out? I have it right here. Here's what you would hear right away in Mexico City within 1 minute of when they said they were going to do that. That's what you'd be hearing. The halls of Montezuma, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. You'll be hearing that right in the halls of Montezuma in 1 minute after that happened, because we don't allow people to, we don't allow the Russians or the Chinese to take over in our area, to challenge us or anybody else to ally with them. And the Russians do the same with Ukraine. Uh, they're never going to allow Ukraine to join NATO or have any possibility of it or to have security guarantees or anything like that. That's what it's been all along from this whole war, not starting in 2022 in February, but in 2014 when Obama and Victoria Nuland and John McCain and Joe Biden caused a coup over there, a putsch by the regime that took over and is still in power. That's how simple it is. And I'm actually surprised the Russians let it go on that long, that they didn't intervene in 2014 or even earlier when the Baltics joined. They joined around 2003 or four, I think. So that's that. That's that story. It's absurd to think it would be anything else. And here we go. And this is related one in the Financial Times also today. Brussels is finally flexing its muscle on Russian assets. Excuse me, a little dry throat today. My fourth cup of coffee. Keeps me going. Um, okay, this guy's his name is Martin Sandbu, Sandbu. He's celebrating the EU voting to steal Russia's assets or freeze them. Same thing, because then they can use it. That are in a bank in Brussels. It's part of Belgium, but the EU is separate from Belgium, although Belgium is part of it. And Belgium has protested. And what they did was the EU, for something like this, you're supposed to have a unanimous vote of all the EU members. But Hungary and 6 other countries are saying no. It's not just Hungary, it's supposed to be right wing, but we'll talk about that in a minute in another story. Um, so this is what this guy says. Yet on occasion, the EU does show a flash of steeliness. On Friday, it used a majority procedure to put the blocking of Russia's central bank reserves on a new legal basis, no longer requiring 6 monthly unanimous renewals. In other words, they're violating their own laws. Hey, Trump violates the Constitution. Biden did. Obama, all of them, they do. What's the Constitution? What's the EU laws, right? Who cares? It's money. Let's steal it. Okay, with a pen stroke, gone was the power of Hungary's Viktor Orban or any other EU leaders letting themselves be used by the Kremlin to frustrate Europe's greatest means of pressure against Russia. That's not true. Here's the greatest means of Europe's pressure on Russia. The UK has 300 nuclear weapons. France has 300 nuclear weapons. they can launch them at Russia and destroy Moscow and some other areas. Although Russia has pretty good air defense, might not work there. So they can launch their nuclear weapons, and of course, then they'll all be flattened. There would be no more. Uh, there would be no more France, no more UK, no more Germany, because Russia has many more nuclear weapons and more accurate, and you can't stop them. That's the only way. To say that this is any real pressure is idiotic. Russia's already figured out the loss of that money into their economy, and they have 4% growth compared to America, which has only 2% growth. And I don't know what the growth in the EU is. It's different by country, but in Germany it's going down. Okay, so let's go again here. The, that power move eases the path for another one. In a few days, leaders are likely to push through a big, quote, reparations loan, quote, for Kiev, funded by cash accumulated on EU banks' balance sheets due to the sanctions. Reparations loan. They want to get reparations from Russia for the war, like they did from Germany from after World War One. Well, how did that turn out? Germany had reparations, and they hated it. They even put Hitler in to get out of it. That's how bad it was. But that's not going to happen with Russia because Germany lost World War One. And like I just said, the only way Russia is going to lose is if everybody gets nuked. That's it. Unfortunately, Trump isn't playing along with this. One of the few good things he's been doing lately. Now, here's another one. Eswar Prasad, who is a professor at Cornell, senior fellow at the Brookings Institute, and the author of The Doom Loop, the name of the book, The Doom Loop, Why the World Economic Order is Spiraling into Disorder. It's a kind of interesting book, actually. But he's saying here, China's $1 trillion trade surplus is a problem for Beijing and the world. The country's growth model is becoming increasingly difficult to sustain. They have so much growth, they're going to collapse. Come on, get out of here. They have problems. A friend of mine was over there at the Beijing Olympics in 2008, and she said that they had all these tall apartment buildings were totally empty. This is all over Beijing, and I've heard in other areas too, and it's still like that. They build too much, and but then they just wait a few years, and eventually the people come and move in there. It's a mistake. It's an overbuilding. It's an economic problem, but it's not. I mean, isn't that a nice problem to have? In California here, we don't have anything that's empty, because the housing prices are so high. Everybody's jammed in together like I am here. This is a beautiful place in California, so it just doesn't make sense for these people. Here's this. Come to America now. New York City, Big Apple. Uh, this is an opinion piece by, excuse me, Rachel Cohen Booth, New York Times opinion section, very influential. And she says, no major American city has ever built a universal child care system. That means that nearly 3/4 of American parents who are looking for a way to take care of their children are struggling to find it. At the same time, costs have exploded. Daycare now runs more than twice what it did just before the pandemic. You think maybe there's already a system of taking care of children that works pretty well for like many thousands of years? Let's see. It's called the mother. Why can't a mother take care of children? Now, of course, we have economic problems that force mothers to work when they don't want to go into the workforce instead of staying home, taking care of their families. Like if you're a boomer, I'm not going to tell you how wonderful it was to be a boomer, but almost all our mothers were at home. In the neighborhood I grew up in Michigan. Michigan at that time was the most prosperous area in the world around Detroit. Not today, of course, but it was called the Paris. The Paris of the West was the name for Detroit. Any man or even woman could get a job in the factory, make lots of money, equivalent of about $150,000 a day. I mean, a year today. And if you have a factory job there now, you can do that, but there are just fewer of those jobs. And so mom could stay home. And a lot of moms in my neighborhood, they were helping out their husbands. They were working too. Like there was a plumber, so I kept the books. Another guy, he drove an oil truck, and his wife kept the books for that too. And So that's what we need to go back to. If all these moms, they want to stay home, but they can't because everything costs too much, and the pay is too low. Those are real problems, not the socialism. Because who's going to pay for this? Everybody else. Or though he's almost certainly going to raise the money on the rich, the taxes on the rich. In California, the top tax rate is 14.4%. Why so many people are leaving, except Silicon Valley, that's different. So many rich people are just leaving, going to Florida. You don't have to pay that. And in New York City, though, it's even higher. It's 14.776% the rich people pay. And what do you get? Crummy services, crummy everything. California, at least we have great weather, although the rest isn't so hot. And let's see what we have here. This is kind of interesting. Uh, Brussels effect backfires as EU regulations lose global clout. We were talking about the EU earlier. The EU it's this unaccountable bureaucracy, and they have this picture right here of Ursula von der Leyen. She's this German aristocrat, and apparently her ancestors were Nazis. Not so surprised about that, but my father, he helped beat those guys. So I had 4 uncles and a cousin who fought against the Axis in World War II. 2 were in the Pacific, and the others were in Europe. My father helped occupy Germany after the war in Bremen. He was fighting in France, and he was a like I think I mentioned, he was in ordnance, or DNCE. Anyway, so these people are just amazing. They have all these regulations that everybody hates, which is why everybody's hoping now, or a lot of people are, that the EU just breaks up. Go back to what they had. Go back to each country has its own individual currency, individual economy, individual banking, and what they can have is what the EU started out as a free trade union back in the 50s, and then it accrued all this huge bureaucracy. Okay, here's another one. Excuse me a second. Back to the U.S. of A. U.S. student loan delinquencies rise sharply. Millions miss payments as graduates struggle to find jobs in cooling market. There shouldn't be any banking loans. And again, excuse me for being a boomer, but we got by in those days because tuition, for one thing, was half the price today. Because all these loans and other things, they pay for all these professors, these left-wing nut professors. They all want socialism, but they're living like kings. And then in some universities, for the University of California and Cal State, there are more administrators than professors. There are all these, the dean of this, the dean of that, the dean of inclusion, the dean of diversity, the dean of equity, the dean of the environment, the dean of DEI, the dean of ESG, the dean of MSG, and all these guys and gals, these men and women who are the administrators, they get huge pay too. It's even higher. So the solution is get rid of it. It's 1.2, well, excuse me, $1.7 trillion that these kids owe. I'll tell you my radical solution. Just tell the banks forget it. Tell 1.7 trillion, and then we end the loans. No more loans. No more Pell Grants. No more anything. And the price will come down, and then the kids can do what we did. Again, excuse me for being a boomer, but most of us did like I did. Got a scholarship. You work jobs. I worked jobs in the summer and when I was in school, and you get some parental help. That's how you get through. And also get rid of these pointless degrees in sociology and studies of this, studies of diversity, studies of equity, studies of inclusion, studies, which is waste all the money. Get rid of that. We can solve this problem. Okay, going longer today. Let's see. One there, that one here, and I had this one. Excuse me. One of these days I'm gonna figure out how to do this split screen. But for now, this is working pretty well, I guess. Let's see, where is it? Um, hmm. Well, I'll skip it. Anyway, it was Mike Pompeo. He was talking about all this stuff in Venezuela. Pompeo was he was the head of the CIA, and Trump told him release the Epstein files. He didn't. So now we have all this problem that we have today. They're still going to be released supposedly, and then for some reason Trump he campaigned on it over and over and over, and now he's against it. But then he finally signed off on it. Who knows what we'll get? But that was Pompeo, and then he also, when Pompeo was Secretary of State, Trump ordered him to get the troops out of Syria, and he didn't. Pompeo disobeyed again. He's just a total nutty neocon, and he's running now. And if you see him in the pictures, he looks good. He's lost more weight than I am, and he's close to my age. And he went to he's from Orange County actually. Originally, he went to West Point. I think he was the top of his class. So smart guy. And not a chick in hockey. Served in the military, but I don't want that guy as president. I just don't. I rather. Man, I mean, what choice are we going to have? It's Pompeo and who else? Nikki Haley, Mike Pence. No, he'll never go anywhere. What choice do we have? And it'll be Newsom or who knows what. Sad times. And this one is from New York Times today as well, Monday, December 15th. Remember, like and subscribe. Hope you're getting some good information here. And let's see. Germany's far right seeks national secrets. They want to be part of the government and find out what's going on, because they have members in the government over there in the Reichstag. Now, it's always amusing to me how they say this is a far right group. It's called AfD, Allianz für Deutschland, Alliance for Germany. They are against the Ukraine war. That's what this is about. The second member of the AfD pushed the government to disclose whether it had provided Ukraine with a long-range rocket system capable of striking deep inside Russia. A third wanted officials to reveal if the German army used drones to patrol its eastern border. And the first one, which I should have started with, one far-right lawmaker demanded that the German authorities reveal the exact routes used by the German military to take supplies to Ukraine. Right wing, that means Nazi, right? Now, in the World War II, what did the Nazis do? We remember all the books I read in World War II. Oh, the Nazis invaded on June 22nd, 1941. It was called Operation Barbarossa, and they invaded the Soviet Union and almost conquered it. They were defeated before Moscow. Stalin rallied his country despite killing 20 million of them. But he rallied the people. He stopped persecuting the Russian Orthodox Church, and instead of just saying, let's win for Marxism, Leninism, he said, let's win for Mother Russia. That's what he really did. He brought the Russian Orthodox Patriarch was in the Gulag, brought him back to Moscow. And the Russians weren't going to fight for Lenin and Marx, but they would fight for Mother Russia. They call it the Relina, Mother Russia. And then in 1942, Hitler again attacked, and an offensive to hit Stalingrad, and that went badly too. The famous Battle of Stalingrad, which the Nazis lost. And then in 1943, another one. They attacked at Kursk, the greatest attack battle in history, and the Germans again were thrown back. And after that, the Russians had what was called Operation Bagration, named after one of one of Tsar Alexander's top generals that threw back Napoleon. He beat Napoleon, even though Bagration was a count and part of the royalty of the aristocracy, rather. Stalin put him there because he was, again, rallying the Russian people to their history. And this AfD is against the war, whereas the people running Germany are for the war, are for attacking Russia and destroying Russia. Remember, the whole point is to destroy Russia. I had, about a month or two ago, I had something. There's this EU policy paper that said they want to unpower Russia, which means defeat Russia. That's what they actually said in May. Unpower Russia. That's what they want to do. That means destroy Russia. Again, who wants to do that? The Nazis did in World War II. So who's right wing and who's running the Ukraine government? It's the right sector and other right wing Nazi groups that are the descendants of Stepan Bandera, a Nazi. He was a Ukrainian Nazi who massacred thousands of Poles and Russians and Jews. I'm talking about Jewish massacre today, or rather over the weekend in Australia. We just talked about that. So who is right wing here? They're saying these guys are right wing. If you're against the war, you're not right wing. Come on. They keep giving us all these lies. And this is something I'm going to do later, but I've done enough today. It's called Overmatched. It's a big Sunday opinion section in the New York Times yesterday, but I'll report on it later. We've gone enough over half an hour. But one of the things I can just point out quickly, they have the U.S. alone cannot outbuild China. The U.S. alone cannot outbuild China. It's a pretty nice section, so I still like printed papers. So one of the things here is we're way behind on electricity, steel, and shipbuilding. But if we add the other countries in Europe, our NATO allies, and Korea, South Korea, and Japan, and Taiwan, then we'll do better. The curious thing here is shipbuilding. I don't know if you can see this. This one right here. See, the red ones are more like orange China, and the other is the rest of the world. In America, there's these two dots, like shipbuilding. We have almost no shipbuilding. And then electricity, this is an absurd one. The United States is like less than half China, and if you add the other countries, it's half. That's electricity production. Of course, this is after the New York Times and all the liberals and Al Gore and Biden and Obama have destroyed our electricity production. And in California, Gavin Newsom has destroyed our electricity production. Costs twice as much here. But what this doesn't show is the cost of electricity. China's is half of ours. That's why they can make things so much cheaper. And not only that, in California, it's half of America. So China produces electricity 1/4 that of California, 1/4 the cost, and half of America. But not only that, China is producing nuclear power like gangbusters. They're putting them up all over the place, and their nuclear power costs 1/6 of what General does, or what the average is around the world. 1/6. That's how they power their electricity so cheaply. And also, they are still building coal plants. They're building coal plants to build power panels. The power panels you put on your roof, the photovoltaic power panels, and then Newsom and people say, well, they're way ahead of us building all these power panels. Yeah, they use coal to build it, and they send them to us and make money, and then use the profits to make even more of them. That's where we are. It's so silly, and they're just going to keep doing it too. So this is kind of pointless, and this article also does not point out what I have done a couple times, which is China is way ahead of us in producing scientists. The top 12 institutions for science in the world, 10 are in China. Number 2 is Harvard. Number 9 is Max Planck Institute in Germany. The rest are China. It's going to be tough beating that. So where's Ali? Ali's inside right now. So anyway, have a good day, everybody. And like and subscribe, and check out the Ali treats, which I give for Ali next time if he's not so rambunctious. It's good. He's 14 years old. He has more energy than I do, at least until I have coffee. So Merry Christmas. Goodbye till next time.